We begin today at the Mishnah on Daf Zayin Amud Beis, the bottom of the Amud. Okay, so we're continuing here the halachas of one that kills b'shoigig that is chayiv to go into Golus. Sagt Heilige Mishnah, Nishmat habarzel mikatoi. A person that is chopping wood, and the axe has the handle, and then there's the metal part, the blade on top of the handle. So the blade got displaced from the handle, and v'harag, and that metal killed someone. Rabbi says, Eina goyla. In such a case, the person does not go into Golus. So Rishonim say, the Gemara here will bring soon the source of the pasuk. This is all based on a pasuk, as we'll see. V'noshal habarzel min ha'etz u'motzas re'eu u'bameis. The question, as the Gemara will explain, is how you explain that pasuk. But the Rishonim explain that the svara behind this is that in such a case, when the blade flies off the handle, it's like an oinus. It's not something a person could have expected at all, so there's no galus. That's one explanation. The Chachamim, however, Chachamim say goyla, that in this case you do go into galus. Now another case, and here the opinions are the opposite. Mina eitz hamiz bakeya. If when the person is chopping wood, there's a piece of wood from what he's chopping that flies out and hits someone and kills him. So Rabbi says this is the case where the person does go into galus. However, Chachamim say eina goyla. Then in this case you do not go into galus. So over here again, there's Rishonim that explain that the reason why Chachamim say you don't go into galus is because this wood that was chopped flew out and killed this person is like an oinus. It's not something that you could expect. But as we'll see here right now in the Gemara, the basis of the machlokes is from the pasuk. Tanya Nabraisa. Amalem Rabbi leChachamim. Rabbi asked the Chachamim that say that when the blade flies off the handle, you go into galus. V'chi nemar in the pasuk. Does it say v'noshal habarzel me'etzai, that the barzel, the metal, the blade, flies off from its wood, meaning from its wooden handle? That's not the lashon of the pasuk. V'halele nemar elo min ha'etz. The lashon of the pasuk is v'noshal habarzel min ha'etz, and therefore the way Rabbi teaches the pasuk is that the barzel caused that from the eitz, from the wood of the tree that he's chopping, a piece flew out and killed someone, but not that the barzel itself got displaced, got removed from the handle. So that's in the mashmos of the lashon of the pasuk. Rabbi holds that it's not the barzel flying off of the eitz. It doesn't say eitzai. Void. Another raya Rabbi brings to his opinion. In the pasuk itself, nemar eitz lamata. It says in this pasuk the word eitz.
It's not his fault. It's not the man's fault. It's like he did something.
Yeah, no, it's an oinus. Like I said, that's a svara that the Rishonim say that it's like an oinus, correct? But the ikad diuk he has is from the lashon of the pasuk here. V'oid, another detail in this pasuk itself, nema eitz lamata v'nemar eitz lamayla. It says twice the word eitz in the pasuk, because the pasuk says that. That he's coming to chop wood. And then it says, V'noshal habarzel mina eitz. So, ma eitz ha'omal l'maylo, just like the first time it says eitz in this pasuk, what is it talking about? Min eitz ha'mizbakeya. It's talking about the piece of wood that he's chopping wood. Af eitz ha'omal l'mato, when it says eitz the second time, V'noshal habarzel min ha'eitz, what does it mean? Min eitz ha'mizbakeya. What it means is a piece of wood from what he was chopping flew out and killed someone. Not that the barzel, the metal blade, got displaced from the handle. Okay, so that's all the explanation of Rabbi's opinion. But now here the Gemara brings another point that explains the machlokes of Rabbi and the Chachamim. Both Rabbi and the Chachamim are darshaning the same pasuk of V'noshal habarzel min ha'etz. And the question is how you translate the pasuk, or how actually you read the word of v'noshal. So when it says v'noshal habarzel min ha'etz, this is the pasuk they darshan. Rabbi Savar, Rabbi says yesh aim l'mesayres. The ikir, when you read a pasuk, the word aim over here means what's the main way how you translate a pasuk. It's the Mesaitis. Mesaitis means the way you read the ksiv in the pasuk, the letters the way it's written, not the way it's pronounced. And therefore over here, if you just read the letters in the pasuk, you can read the word not v'noshal, but you read it v'nishal. Right? The Gemara adds a yud here in order that it should be clear what it means. But the Gemara is saying that you read it v'nishal. That's the ksiv. That's not the kri. Why is this? V'nishal ksiv. Rashi here says the reason is because when you read v'noshal with a kometz, in order to make it a kometz and not to read it with a chirik, v'nishal, so you would have to add a aleph or a hey in the pasuk, and it should be v'no shal. But now that it says without a aleph or a hey, so then you read the ksiv, it's v'nishal. So what does v'nishal, the word v'nishal mean? That v'nishal, let's see again the lashon of the pasuk, v'nishal habarzel, the barzel caused that something else should be displaced. That's what the word nishal. Nishal means not that it got displaced, but it caused something else to get displaced. And what is that? Mina eitz, from the tree, the wood of the tree that he's chopping off. That's Rashi's pshat in the Gemara. It's not so usual, this drasha here. The Ritva, I think, points out that Rashi's pshat, that if you read v'noshal, I should say a aleph or a hey in the middle of the word, that it should be v'no-shal. It's you don't find anywhere else in the Torah such a thing. Usually it's just there's no aleph and a hey in the middle of the word in Lashon Kodesh. But that's what Rashi says. However, Rabbanan say yesh aim lemikra, that the main thing that the way you dash in the pasuk is lemikra, the way it's pronounced, and v'noshal karinon, even though it says without a aleph and a hey, and therefore you can go with the ksiv, which is v'nishal, but we read it, we pronounce it v'noshal with the comments. And what does v'noshal mean? V'noshal means that it goes on the barzel itself. V'noshal ha-barzel, that the blade, the metal blade itself, got displaced minates from the wood, from the handle that it's on. And therefore, the Chachamim darshan, then in such a case you go into Galus. Now the Gemara asks on this pshat, v'Rebbi yesh aim l'mesayres svirelei. Is it true that Rebbe's opinion is that you darshan the psukim of the Torah according to the Mesaitis, which means according to the ksiv, the way it's written, the letters the way it's written, not the way we pronounce it? But v'amar Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef amar Rabbi Yechanan, Rabbi v'Rabbi Yehuda ben Royitz, o Beishamai v'Rab Shimon v'Rab Akiva, kulu svirelhu. All of these chachamim, starting with Rabbi, they all hold yesh aim lemikra, that the main way how to darshan a pasuk is the mikra, the way we pronounce it, not the way it's written. Answers the Gemara, Hainu the ka'amaluhu v'oid. This is the reason why, before the Gemara explained that Rabbi brought a second raya to his opinion, that we compare the eights, the two terms of eights in the pasuk, that the eights before is speaking about the wood from the tree, so to afterwards the eight is speaking about the wood of the tree, and not that the blade got displaced from the wooden handle. That was the main raya that Rabbi brought. Rav Papa said, Man the shode pisa ledikla, a person that throws a piece as a clump of earth onto a palm tree, and va'asar tamri, and it caused the dates to get disconnected, and va'azal tamri v'kotl, and this date now flew on someone and it killed someone. Says Rav Papa, Banu lamachloikis the Rabbi v'Rabbanan. This will be the same machlokes between Rabbi and Rabbanan, whether you go into Galus here. Because this is like the second case of the Mishnah, where a person is chopping wood with the axe, and it's not the axe itself that he by mistake hit someone with it, but then a piece of wood from the tree that he's chopping flew out and went and killed someone. Similar here, when the person threw a piece of earth, not the piece of earth killed someone, he threw the piece of earth and it went on the tree, and then the date flew off the tree and killed someone. It's the same thing. And over here, just like in the Mishnah, there's a machlokes of Rabbi and Rabbanan, whether when that piece of wood flies out from the tree that he's chopping, if he's chayav golos, same thing, whether when this tomar, this date flew out and it killed someone, whether you chayav or not. Says the Gemara Pshita, what Rav Papa is saying, that this is another example of the machlokes of Rabbi and Rabbanan. It's obvious, it's the same thing. Why would I make any distinction? Answers the Gemara, no, there's actually a svara to differentiate. Ma'al deteme, I would think to say, kekoyach koychoy domi, that in the case here, when the date flies and kills someone, this is already like a secondary koyach. It's not directly the koyach, the energy of the person himself that's doing this. And the reason is because in the Tosfos here says, in the case of a person that's standing with an axe and chopping the wood of the tree, he's holding that axe in his hand a whole time. when he bangs the axe onto the tree and chops the wood, that piece of wood that flies out, he has the axe in his hand and he's chopping that wood. So over here, the piece of wood that flies out is more directly the koyach of the person that's chopping the tree. By the case of a person that threw a piece of earth onto the tree, he released it from his hand. He threw that piece of earth onto the tree. It's not in his hand anymore. And now it's hitting a date, and then the date flies and kills someone. I would think that this is considered to be a secondary koyach, that for this there's no galus. Kamash Malan, and therefore Rav Papa comes to say that no, this is still considered to be the koyach of the person. The earth that's flying is only flying with his koyach. It's like he's still holding it because it has his koyach in it that's pushing it. That's why it's flying to this date, and therefore it is chayav galus, just like according to the Rabbanon, just like you had in the Mishnah, or according to Rebbe rather, just like you had it in the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, Elo koyach koychai leRebbe hechi mishkachesla. What would be considered the case where it is a koyach of the koyach, a secondary koyach that according to Rebbe you would be potter from galus? Says the Gemara, Kagain, the case would be the Shada Pisa, you threw a piece of earth, Omachia Legrama, and it hit a branch from the palm tree, and then Vazal Grama, Omachia Lekvasa, then this branch that got moved, it hit the cluster of dates, and Vasa Tamri Vazal, Tamri Vikotel, and then the date got disconnected and the date killed someone. So over here, that's Koyach Koyach, because what he threw hit a branch, and then the branch went and hit the date that killed someone. A person that throws a rock into the Rishus Harabim, v'harag, and it kills someone, hareza goyla. So he goes into golos for doing this, b'shaygig. Rabbi Yaakov says, if after the person threw the rock, only then, this person sticks out his head from a window. So the person wasn't there first. He came there after the person already threw the rock. And the rock hit him and it killed him. The one that throws this is potter from galus. A person throws a rock in his courtyard and it kills someone. Now, if the victim that got killed had permission to enter there, then the one that threw and killed goes into galus. If he had no permission to enter, then the one that killed him does not go into galus. Because the pasuk says, "Vasher Yavo Yisraelu Bayar." You were with your friend in the forest. By a forest, it's both. There's the nizik, the victim, and the mazik, the one that kills, can enter there. The place where you have galus is only where they have a reshus of both the nizik and the mazik to be there. And the lamazik, some are goydis and not goydis, lamazik, likonis l'sham. They don't both have reshus to enter there. The nizik came into the private property of the mazik. In such a case, if you threw a rock and killed him b'shaygig, you won't be chayiv galus. Abishal learns out something else from this pasuk. Vasheyavai esre'eu bayar. Machatovis eitzim rishus. The example the pasuk says is a person that's chopping wood. So just like in this example, chopping wood is something that is a rishus. It's not a mitzvah. It's permissible. When a person wants, could or can't do it. Afkal rishus. So too, the time when a person is chayav galus, we're talking about something that a person is doing, which is rishus. Yotza. This excludes a case. Ha'ava makes benoi. A father that is hitting his child and b'shaygig he killed him. Or v'harav hareides talmidai, or a teacher that is also hitting a student, or a shliach bezdin that's giving malchus according to Rashi's pshat, and he by mistake kills him. In all these cases, because he's being Isaac in a mitzvah and b'shaygig he kills him, so he's not chayav galus. Okay, so the Gemara starts with the first case of the Mishnah. It said someone threw a rock into the Rishus Harabim and he kills someone, he's potter from galus. Says the Gemara, Rishus Harabim meizitu. He's amazed. In such a case, it's the greatest negligence. A person throws a rock into the Rishus Harabim and it kills someone. So why would you think a person is... the Mishnah actually said that he's chayiv galus, right? Mm-hmm. So why is he chayiv galus? He's amazed. It's a big pshia. The case here is that he's demolishing a wall and he's not careful and it goes into the Rishus Harabim. It doesn't matter. He's still negligent by doing this. You should pay attention. You can't demolish a wall into a Rishus Harabim where people are traveling. And it says the Gemara, he's demolishing his wall at night. At night, you should also pay attention to see if people are traveling there in the Rishus Harabim. And says the Gemara B'Seiser as Kaisloi La'ashpa. He's demolishing his wall to a place which is a garbage dump, and there's no people there. So in such a case, it's not a pshia, it's not a mezid la pshia. Fragt the Gemara, Hai Ashpe, this garbage dump, Heichadami, what are we talking about? If this is a garbage dump that people go there all the time, so then Peshayu, it's the same like a Rishus Harabim, he's still negligent and he shouldn't go into Golas. Now, but if it's a place that people are not there, it's a garbage dump and people are not there, so then honestly, the fact that someone was there and he killed him, it's a aynus because he didn't expect at all that anybody would be there. And says the Gemara, Amar Rav Papa, so Rav Papa explains, we only need this din, it's only possible that the Mishnah says that he doesn't go to Galos, or he does go to Galos, this is a garbage dump that people go there at night when one wants to relieve himself. So they went out in a place, went by night. But during the day, people do not go there. However, the mikri v'yosif, there are times that a person, if he needs, even during the day, he will go to this garbage. And therefore, in such a case, pesheya loyhave. You can't say that he's totally negligent for demolishing his wall in this place. Or actually, Taisva says that now we don't have to be speaking about necessarily demolishing a wall. Even if he threw a rock there into this garbage dump, he's not considered to be a pesheya, because usually people are not there by day. But on the other hand, Einis Nami Loyhave, he's not considered to be a Einis, that it's a garbage dump and no one is ever there. No, because the Mikri V'Yosef. It is possible that sometimes somebody is there, and therefore this is in the category of Shaygig, that is Chayav Galus. That if a person throws a rock and only later the person comes to that place where he threw the rock, then he's going to be potter. Tana Rabbanon, so on a brayse we learned, the source is, because it says in the pasuk, Umatza, the pasuk that we're talking about, when a person goes by Yar, Lachta Veitzim, and then what happened? Umatza Esrei Umatza means he was there already. It hits the person that was there. Prat Lamanzi Es Atzmai. This excludes a case where a person, after you already threw the rock, this person, for example, sticks his head out of the window and it hits him. In such a case, he's potter, because the mumatza means that it found someone that's already there. If after the one that threw the rocket left his hands, this person sticks out his head, and the rock hit him, potter, will be potter. Shall we say the matzah, that the term matzah means meikara mashma, that what was there, it hit someone that was already there from before. That's what the term matzah means. But I'll ask you from a brayse where it also brings a term matzah regarding another case in the Torah, and there it says actually the opposite. Matzah. So this pasuk is speaking about a person that is selling a stei achuza. He's selling a property that he inherited from his parents, from his ancestors, and he sold it. So in such a case, the pasuk says that when umatza kedei gulasai v'siga yadei umatza kedei gulasai, that if he has and finds money to be able to redeem it, so then the buyer has to allow him to redeem and buy back this property. So the Braise Darshan, so matzah means prat lematzah. This is only in a case where the person that sold did not have money. That's why he had to sell off his property. And now he finds money, so then the buyer has to allow him to redeem it. But this excludes prat lematzah only if you found money now. But if this is a person that had money from before and he still sold off his property, in such a case, the buyer does not have to give it back. We don't force the buyer to return it to allow him to redeem it. And the Braise goes on to say that from this we learn also, if a person owns a few properties, so he shouldn't go and sell a property that's far from him, and then he's going to use that money to redeem from another property that he sold that's near him. Or sell a property that's not such a good quality, and he'll redeem this property that he sold that's a good quality, because that means that when he sold this property, he already had another property available to be able to redeem. And in such a case, we can't force the buyer to allow him to redeem it. So what do we see here? That umatza means that he finds the money now, not that it was already there from before. And by the drasha of umatza sre'eu, over there we said the opposite, that umatza means that he was already there from before. Answers the Gemara, Amar Rav, so Rav explains, Hacha me'inyani dekra, v'hasa me'inyani dekra. The word of matzah itself, it's not clear if it means from before or now, but it's all in the subject of the context in the pasuk itself. Hasa me'inyani dekra, over there, by a person that is redeeming, estei achuza, the property that he sold. So if you look at the context of the pasuk, umatzah, the term umatzah there is, dumye, similar to the expression the pasuk says right before, the v'hisiga yadai, that now he's able to afford to redeem his property. Ma isigi yodei mahashta. The term isigi yodei means that he could afford it, and that's only now. Af matzanami mahashta. The term matzah means that now he could afford it. That's why here matzah means now. And hacha over here, by the case of a person that kills b'sheigig minyani dekra, because it says umatzah, dumye diyar. Umatzah is similar to what the pasuk says, that they come to a forest. Ma yar midi de isemei kara. Just like the forest is there from before. Af umatzah nami midi de isemei kara. Umatzah means that the friend, the person that got hit, was already there from before. So the Mishnah says that if you throw a rock, this is again the Mishnah went on to say that Abishal says you learn out from the example of the pasuk chopping wood that it's a reshus, and you only chayiv galus if it's something that was a reshus, excluding cases where it was a mitzvah. In such a case, there's no galus. So one of the Rabbanon asked Rava the Shaila, Mimai the mechatavis eitzim the reshus. You're learning from the pasuk like chopping wood is a reshus, so too galus is only reshus. But how do you know it's chopping wood that's a reshus? Maybe the pasuk when it says that a person is chopping wood, he's chopping wood in order to build a sukkah, or he's chopping wood in order to have the wood that you need for the maracha, for the fire on the mizbeach. Legally, and still the Torah says that he will go to galus even though what he's doing is a mitzvah. Amalei, so Rava answered that no, it's actually not a mitzvah. Even if it was for sukkah or for the mizbeach, it's not a mitzvah, because even the im matzah chotov ain't a chaytiv. If he already has wood that's chopped for a sukkah or for the mizbeach, you don't have to chop wood. So lav mitzvah. So then it's not a mitzvah. So hashtanami, now even if he is chopping the wood for the sukkah or for the mizbeach, lav mitzvah. This is not considered to be a mitzvah. This is it's a hechsher mitzvah. It's a achana for the mitzvah, but it's not a mitzvah itself. By the sukkah, the building of the sukkah itself is actually a mitzvah, but the chopping of the wood, that's not considered to be a mitzvah, and therefore even if it was for the sukkah or for mizbeach, it's rishus, and therefore from there we learn that you only chayav galus if it's a rishus. So now Ravina asked Rava based on this, what did it say in our Mishnah? That Yatza, what does this exclude? A father with a son, or a teacher and a student, or by shliach bezdin that hits, and the person dies b'shaygig, then all these cases it was a mitzvah and you potter. But Leime, what should we say here, similar to the svara that Rava just said? And the Gemara says by the son, Kivin the ilu gomor, lav mitzvah, if the child is learning, so then it's not a mitzvah to hit the child. So hashtanami lav mitzvah. So if so, it's not considered to be a mitzvah, since if you find, just like you said, if you find wood, so it's not a mitzvah to cut the wood, it's only a hechsher, and therefore it's not the mitzvah itself. So also, benegay to a father and a child, since it's not necessary to hit the child, the main thing is that he should learn. So even if he's not, and you're hitting him, that's only a hechsher. That's not considered to be a mitzvah. Answers the Gemara, no, Hassam over there, the example the Mishnah gives, a father that hits the child, that it's considered to be a mitzvah, over there it's different. That actually is a mitzvah. Because Afagav, the Gomer, mitzvah. Even the child that is learning, there's a mitzvah that when the father hits him. Because there the pasuk says, Yaser bincha v'yanichacha v'yitein madanam l'nafshecha. You hit the child, and he will give you a peace, and he'll give you pleasure for your soul. And from this pasuk you see that even if now he's okay, but for the future, person hits his child now, v'yita, in the future he'll give him adanim, even if the child is learning Torah. It's still a mitzvah, the yaser, as the pasuk here says. Okay, but just to mention regarding what the Gemara says here, regarding hitting a child, that it's always a mitzvah, but there's other places, and there's a Gemara in Kedushin that says when you hit an older child, it could be lifnei ivel sit in michsha. And also, the Gemara says, we learned it in Sanhedrin not long ago, that Smoil Deichen Yemin Mekareves, right? Okay, but nevertheless, the Gemara says that it's always a mitzvah. Okay, Mashain came regarding a person that's cutting wood for the sukkah or for mizbeach over there, it's not considered to be a mitzvah because you don't always need to cut that wood. Then Hada Omar Rava, after all of this, Rava came back and said another pshat, and he said, Lav Milsi Hida Amri. The pshat that I said, that the reason why we see that chopping the wood is a reshus, and even if it's for a sukkah or from mizbeach, it's not considered to be a mitzvah. That's not the reason. Rather, the source in the pasuk is from the language of the pasuk itself, because it says, "Va'asher yova yisre'eu bayar." And if someone will come with his friend into the forest, and it says the term va'asher, that's the diak over here. Asher means an if will come. That means the ma'yar, that's one gersa here, iboy ayel, v'iboy loy ayel. So va'asher means if he wants, he can go with him, and if he wants not. Now, if it's a mitzvah, we're talking about chopping wood, it's a mitzvah, misagid loy ayel. How could you say va'asher, and if you will come? So the word va'asher means dafke, that it's a rishos. That's the source of the pasuk. Okay, so now, some of the Rishonim say that according to the maskan of the Gemara, since Rav is learning it out from va'asher, so going back to the case before, if a person's chopping wood for sukkah or for the mizbeach, that actually would be considered a mitzvah. Before Rav said that that's not considered to be a mitzvah, it's only a hechsher, and if you don't need to chop, so then you don't have to, you already have. But now according to the Maskan of the Gemara, it's possible to say that Rav had charata from that, and that actually would be considered to be a chativa of a mitzvah, and you would be potter from galus. Okay, so but now here we have the diak from the word va'asher. So the Gemara asks on this, is this true? That every time the Torah uses the term of asher, that means the iboyu, that means only if he wants, he does this? But if so, when it says in the pasuk, a person that he became tummy, and he wasn't tired himself. Now, iboy mitame, iboy loy mitame, that means that because it says asher, it's only speaking about a person that if he wanted, he could have become tame to a mace, and if he wanted, he did not have to become tame. That's the kind of tumah we're talking about. And what does the pasuk there say? The pasuk there is talking about that if this person goes into the Beis Hamikdash while he's tame, he's chayav kares. So according to this drasha of asher, that would mean that what type of tumah? If he went into the Beis Hamikdash, would he be chayiv kares? Only if it's a kind of tumah, which is asher. It was his choice. So that means meis mitzvah delay sagid delay mitame, if he became tameh, and it was a meis mitzvah no one else could bury, and therefore it was a mitzvah for him to become tameh. Hachanami de potter. Would it mean that in such a case it would be potter from kares? Answers the Gemara. No, over there we don't dash in the va'asher this way because shani hasam, because there it's different. The Makos, the pasuk then says there that tameh yiyeh, that he will be tameh. These extra words of tameh means b'kol makom, that in any case that a person is tameh and he goes into the Beis Hamikdash, he will be chayav kares, even if it's a tumah of a mitzvah, a mes mitzvah. In fact, the Gemara, how can you learn out from these words? Tameh, it's not extra. Homi bayale. Those words are used for something else. Look at the Tanya. It says in the Braisa, tameh. What are these extra words coming to add? L'rabbis tful yain, a person that did go to the mikveh yet, but he didn't wait until at night, and he's not fully tar yet. Even he will be chayev kares for entering to the Beis Hamikdash. And then when it says tumasei boy, l'rabbis mechusek kipurim, it comes to add even another person that went into the mikveh and it's already by night, but he didn't bring his kapara, the carbon he didn't bring. Rashi brings there by a zava yoledis mitzayra, they have to bring a carbon in order to complete the tara, that even in such a case, he enters into the Beis Hamikdash and will be chayav kares. So that's what tamiyah is used for, so it's not extra. Amalei, so he answered, there's another thing that's extra in the pasuk. Ano mi oid tumasei kamina. My drasha is from what it says there in the pasuk afterwards, oid tumasei bay, which is also extra, and that comes to add that in every case of tumah, not only a case of a tumah of reshus, but even a tumah of a mitzvah, like a mes mitzvah, if he then goes into the Beis Hamikdash, will be chayav kares. Now here the Gemara brings Ikeh the Masni La'ahav. Some say that this discussion that we had before, that started with Hahumir Rabbanon that asked Rava Shaila, and then Ravine that asked Rava on his answer. So some say that this whole discussion was on something else, and on this pasuk here, B'charish u'bakotze tishpais, that you should not plow or reap in the field. Now, simply, this pasuk is in a pasuk where it speaks about Shabbos. In the beginning of the pasuk, it says Sheish Yomim Tavid of Yom Shvi Tishbais B'Chodesh U'Bakotze Tishbais. But the Gemara brings here first Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Rabbi Akiva holds that this pasuk B'Chodesh U'Bakotze cannot be talking about Shabbos because on Shabbos there's 39 malachas. Why is it singling out Dafke Chodesh and Kotzer? So it's talking about Shemitah. Then in the year of Shemitah, b'chodesh v'katzeh tishbais. And Rabbi Kiva explains. Rabbi Kiva oimer, ein tzarich lo ima chodesh shel shvius v'katzeh shel shvius. Regarding Shemitah, it's not necessary to teach that to plow or to reap in Shemitah is not allowed. Sharei kvar nema. There's another pasuk where it says, Satchale sizra v'karmachale sizma. You should not plant, you should not reap, you should not cut. Ella. So what is the pasuk here, Chodesh and Kotzer, that Rabbi Kiva darshans is to be referring to Shemitah? What is it talking about? Chodesh shel erev shvius. When a person is plowing the field before Shemitah and he's plowing it close enough that it's beneficial for the growth in Shemitah, Shenichnas l'shvius, and the benefit enters into Shemitah, or v'kotzer shel shvius sheyatza l'matzah shvius. So when a person is reaping during Shemitah of what grows during Shemitah and goes out to after Shemitah, and Rashi says this means if what grew a third during Shemitah and now he's reaping after Shemitah, that's also part of the Isser of Shemitah. That's what you learn out from this extra pasuk of Chodesh and Kotzer. Okay, now Rabbi Shmuel Leimer. Rabbi Shmuel says that this pasuk, b'chodesh u'b'kotzer, is actually speaking about Shabbos, like the simple pshat of the pasuk. Why is the pasuk spelling out these two from the Lamed Tes Malachis, Chodesh and Kotzer? Because Rabbi Shmuel says it's here to compare the two. Ma Chodesh Rishos, just like when the Torah says Chodesh. What kind of a plowing are we talking about? Plowing is a Rishos that a person is doing that he wants. Av Kotzer, so too when it says Kotzer reaping, it means Rishos. What kind of Kotzer is Asar and Shabbos if it's a Rishos? Now that means Yatza Ketzir Ha'omer Shuhu Mitzvah. That excludes if you have to cut the Omer for the mitzvah of bringing the carbon Omer on the second day of Pesach, which is a mitzvah that could be done even on Shabbos. That's the drasha that Rabbi Shmuel darshan in the pasuk. Okay, so now on this, Amalei Ahu Mirabbanan l'Rava. One of the Rabbanan asked Rava, "Mimai the Charisha the Rishus." How can you compare that you learn from Charisha that it's only a Rishus, but how do you know we're talking about plowing, which is a Rishus? Dilme Charishas Oimer the Mitzvah. Maybe we're talking about plowing the field in order to be able to plant the barley that you need for the Oimer of the Mitzvah. So maybe the Charisha is also a Mitzvah. Afil Hachi Amar Achmana Tishbais. And the Torah says that you should rest and not do this kind of Charisha on Shabbos. So Adarabi, you could learn out that the Kotzer of reaping, cutting the Oimer for the Mitzvah is also going to be Asar on Shabbos. Amalei, so here Ravin gave his answer, like we said, similar to what we said before. Kivin, the matzah chodesh eino chodesh. Since if a person finds that the field is already plowed, he doesn't have to plow even for the oimer because it's already been plowed. So therefore, lav mitzvah charisha, plowing for the purpose of the oimer, is never considered to be a mitzvah. Whether it was already plowed, or even if it wasn't, and he has to go and plow now, but that plowing is not considered to be a mitzvah. Rashi explains, Kotzer is considered to be a mitzvah, because in the Torah it says, Uktzartem ve'heveisim es ha'omer. So the Ktsire, Rashi says, actually has to be l'shma, l'shem, the mitzvah of omer. But the Charisha, according to the answer that Rav is saying now, is never considered to be a mitzvah, whether it was already plowed from before or not, and even if you're plowing it now for the mitzvah, but it doesn't have to be l'shem mitzvah, that's not a mitzvah. So therefore we compare the Kotzer to the Chorish, that only a Kotzer that's not a mitzvah, you can't be a Machal Shabbos, but if it's a Kotzer for a omer, you could. Now on this answer, Ravina asked Rava from what it says in our Mishnah, that in these cases, since they are a mitzvah, so therefore, by a father and a child, by a teacher and a student, or by a shliach bezdin, you're not going to be chayiv galus. But v'amai, why are they considered to be a mitzvah? According to the Rava's answer, you should say, Leime, kivin the ilu gama lav mitzvah. If the child is learning, it's not a mitzvah to hit him, so hashta nami lav mitzvah. So now as well, even if he is not learning and you're hitting him for this purpose, but it's not a mitzvah because it's not necessary to do this. Just like by Charisha, you said that if you find that it was already plowed, it's not a mitzvah. So that proves that it's never a mitzvah. So here as well, in our Mishnah, it should not be considered to be a mitzvah. And the Gemara answers, Hasam, as we said before, Afagav the Gomer, Nami mitzvah, even if the child's learning, it is a mitzvah to hit him. Nami mitzvah ka'avid, the father does a mitzvah by hitting him. The Chsev, as the Pasuk says, Yaseh bin Chaviyani Chacha. This is the beginning of what Rav explained and the answer for Ravina's question. But then, Hada Amar Rava, then Rav retracted from what he said before, and he said, Lav milsehida amri. The way I explained the drasha before was incorrect, and you could explain as follows. Ktsire dumye de charisha. The drasha of the pasuk, according to Rabbi Shmuel, we're comparing ktsire, reaping, to plowing, and the drasha is as follows. Ma charisha, just like when it comes to plowing, matzah charosh, if you found already the field that it's already plowed, eina chayrish. He doesn't have to plow for the sake of the omer. Which means even if you're going to say that if he does not find a field plowed, now to plow the field in order to plant what you need, the barley for the omer, then it is a mitzvah. Okay, but that's if he did not find it plowed. But if he did find it plowed, then it's not a mitzvah. So that's the comparison. Af ktsira nami, so too, what kind of ktsira are we talking about? Matzah katzor eina kaitzer. We're talking about a kind of ktsira that if he finds it already that it's katzor, then he does not have to reap. Now, but visal kedaitach mitzvah. But if you're going to say that we're talking about the ktsira, which is a mitzvah, matzah katzor eina kaitzer. Mitzvah liktzar lahavi. By ktsira, you can't say that if he finds it katzor that it's not a mitzvah, because by ktsira, even if he finds it kotzer, it is a mitzvah to cut the tvua. So therefore, as I mentioned before, the Rashi says, the pasuk says, "Ktsartem ve'veisem esaimer." So by ktsira you must cut now l'shem mitzvah. So therefore, we compare to charisha. Just like by charisha, it must be a kind of charisha that it could not be a mitzvah. When you already found it chodosh, it's not a mitzvah. Even if you're going to say that by charisha, when you did not find it chodosh, it is a mitzvah, but when it was already chodesh, it's not a mitzvah. That's the kind of charisha we're talking about. If so, ktsira as well has to be similar. But if it would be the ktsira for the ktsira for the omer is always a mitzvah. So then, therefore, we know that this pasuk is not talking about the ktsira of the omer. A father goes into galus if he killed his child b'shaygig. And a father and a son that is will go into galus if he killed his father b'shaygig. Everybody will go into galus if he killed a yid, and the Gemara will explain who this comes to add. And v'Yisrael goylin al yidayin, and yidden go into galus when a yid kills one of them. Chutz miger toishav. This excludes the case of a ger toishav, that a yid is not going to galus by killing a ger toishav. The ger toishav is a guy. He's makabel upon himself sheva mitzvahs b'nei noyach and so on, and that's a ger toishav. Now the ger toishav himself, ain't a goyle ela al yidei ger toishav. He does not go into galus if he kills a yid. He goes into galus if he kills another ger toishav. Sagt the Gemara ha'av goyle al yidei ben. The Mishnah says a father goes into galus if he kills the child. Fragt the Gemara, but va'amre, didn't we say before in the previous Mishnah, yotza ha'av amakes benoi, a father that hits his son. So since this is considered to be a hakah of a mitzvah, in order for him to learn, and even if he's already learning, as the Gemara said before, the Gemara here will bring now. So in such a case, it's considered to be a mitzvah. So the Gemara first tries to answer the Gomer. This is a son that's already learning. So when the father hits him, it's not a mitzvah. Fragt the Gemara, but v'ha'amrit, we already said, afal gav, the Gomer, even if he is learning mitzvah. Ka'avid, the father's doing a mitzvah when he hits him. So he should continue going in the right path. And says the Gemara that we're not talking about a father that's hitting his child before learning. It's something else. B'shulye denagri. This is a son that's a student of his father when he's teaching him to do a work, to be a blacksmith, let's say. So in such a case, he's hitting him. In that case, it's not hitting for a mitzvah. Fragt the Gemara, shulye denagri. If the father is teaching the child this trait, so chiyusihi, this is actually giving him a ability to have a parnasa, and that's actually an obligation that the father has to give his child this ability. Rashi brings that says in the pasuk Rei Chaim Emisha Shara Hafta that a father has to marry off his child, and the father has to teach his child in umnis. So here, that the father is doing a mitzvah, teaching this to his child. So why, in such a case, if the child died b'sheigig, would the father go into galus? And says the Gemara, the Gomer umnesach that the child already learned a different profession or a different trade, and therefore he already has a parnasa. So the fact that the child hit him there in this case, it was not a mitzvah at all, not learning Torah, and not even for a trade either. And this is the case that this Mishnah says that a father goes into galus. The Mishnah says that the son goes into galus if he killed his father b'sheigig. I'll ask you from what it says in the Braisa. The pasuk says by one that kills b'sheigig that goes into galus makei nefesh. He killed a nefesh. Prat lemake oviv. This teaches that it excludes one that kills a father. And in such a case, he's not going to be chayav galus, because the Rashi says the drasha is because it says here nefesh. That means that only a person that you killed, nefesh, you killed him, you'd be chayiv misa for killing him. In such a case, I say, if you kill b'sheigig, this person goes into galus. By a father, though, the halacha is different. By a father, a child that even makes a chabura, he wounds his father, and he didn't take away his whole nefesh. Even in such a case, it's chayiv misa. And therefore, in such a case, b'sheigig, one that kills his father b'sheigig, is not chayiv galus. So how does it say in the Mishnah that a child that kills a father b'sheigig is chayiv galus? Rav Kahana, so Rav Kahana answers, Loi Kasha, it's not a contradiction. Ho Rab Shimon, the Braise is Rab Shimon's opinion. And Vaho Rabbanon, and the Mishnah is the Rabbanon. Why? So why is this? Or maybe it's the opposite. The Rab Shimon is the Mishnah. Let's see, the Gemara will explain. The Rab Shimon, so here the Gemara brings the Machlokes and Sanhedrin between Rab Shimon and the Rabbanon regarding the order of the four mises that there are, Skilus, Reifa, Herek, and Chenek. What is more severe? So here we're going to discuss chenek and herek, or sayif. What is more severe, stronger misa? Is it chenek, which is strangulation, or sayif, which is beheading? So now, the Gemara explains. Rab Shimon's opinion is chenek chomer misayif. Chenek is more severe of a misa than sayif, than with a sword. And therefore, I say as follows: Shigigas sayif, a ritzeach, one that kills b'shegig, or one that kills b'mezid rather, is chayiv misa ha, with a sword. So now, if that happens shegig of a ritziche, that's nitna lekapara. That's where the Torah says that you go into galus, is the kapara of galus. Shigigas chenek, however, when a child kills his father, so in such a case, because this is a shegig of a misa which is chenek. And the reason is, as Rashi explains, because in such a case, when a child kills a father, which misa is the child chayiv? There are two misas here. The child made a wound when he killed his father, so he's chayiv chenek. The chayiv of a person that makes a wound for his father, a chabura, is chayiv chenek. And he also is a ritzeach, he killed his father, he's also chayiv sayif. So there's two misas that the child is chayiv. What happens when a person is chayiv two misas? You give the more severe misa. So according to Rav Shimon, what's the more severe misa? Chenek. So therefore, since in this case when a child killed his father, which means he made a wound, and therefore he's not going to be chayiv the more severe misa, which is chenek, not the regular sayif by a ritzeach, shigigas chenek, the shegig of a chenek, which is more severe, lenitna lekapara. There's no atonement for this when it happens b'shegig, and therefore you don't go into galus. So this is the Braisa actually. So Rav Shimon is a Braisa that says prat lamaka oviv, that you don't go into galus. However, the Rabbanon, the Omri, Sayif, Chomer Mechenek, Rabbanon say that the Misa with a Sayif is actually a level more severe than Chenek. Hoyrig Aviv b'Shegig is Shigig Asaifu. When one kills a father b'Shegig, he's Chayiv the Misa of Sayif just like any Reitzeach. Because Sayif is the more severe. So in the case of a child that kills a father, and he's chayiv two misas for making a wound, which is chenek, and for killing him, which is sayif, he's chayiv sayif just like any other itzeach. And v'shigig sayif mitnul kapara. So therefore, a child that kills a father is no different than any other itzeach. That the shgaga of the sayif, which is by a itzeach, there's a kapara of galus, and therefore the Rabbanan is our Mishnah. That's one pshat here. But Rava says, no, there's another pshat. The Braisa is Bechlal talking about a different case. When it says in the Braisa, Make nefesh, prat la make aviv, it doesn't mean he killed his father. What it means is, prat la isel chabura ba'aviv. What it's saying is that there's no galus in a case when a person made a wound by his father, b'shaygig, by mistake. Why would I think that in such a case a person should go into galus, that I need a pasuk to exclude? Because I would think to say, when a person makes a wound for his father, he did it b'mezid, he's chayiv misa, b'shegig nami ligli. So maybe b'shegig he would go into galus. Kamash malon. Therefore, the limud is makin nefesh. Only if he killed a ritzeach, he took away his whole life, then he's chayiv galus. And even a child that's chayiv b'mezid, when he made a wound for his father, kamash malon, that the pasuk is saying that he does not go into galus. It's a different subject. It's not a state of bechlal tar Mishnah. The Mishnah said, "Hakoil goylin al yidei Yisrael v'chulu." Everybody goes into galus when they kill a yid. Who's this hakoil? Hakoil goylin al yidei Yisrael asuye mai. Who's it coming to add? Says the Gemara, asuye comes to add eved, an eved kanani that's chayiv a mitzvahs like a woman, and he's to some extent a yid, and v'kuti. The kutim, the ones that were Megayir in the time of the first base of Mikdash. There's a machlokes always in the Gemara whether they're considered to be proper gatim or not. Here, this Mishnah, the Gemara goes according to the opinion that they are proper gatim. So if they kill a yid, they're going to be chayiv galus. Says the Gemara, Tanina lahad tan rabbanon. This is a proof of what we learned in Abraisa. Eved v'kuti. Both an eved and a kuti goyle, they go into galus. and Viloike, and also they can get Malkus al Yidei Yisrael for what they do for a Yid. And also Yisrael, Goyle Viloike al Yidei Kuti ve'Eved. And a Yid will go into Galus and also will get Malkus for what he did, for what he did to the Kuti and the Eved. Okay, so now the Gemara will explain. The Braisa here says, the Braisa adds more than what the Mishnah said. The Mishnah said Galus, the Braisa adds Loike, Malkus as well. So the Gemara explains, Bishloime Evet v'Kuti Goyle al Yidei Yisrael. When it says in the Braisa that the Evet and the Kuti goes into Galus if they kill the Yid, and also V'Loike, and he also gets Malkus. So what's the cases? Goyle, a Evet and a Kuti will go into Galus. The Kotle, if an Evet or a Kuti kills a Yid b'Shoigig, he will go into Galus. What's the case V'Loike, an Eved and a Kuti that gets Malkus through what he did for a Yid? The Latye, if he cursed a Yid, as Rashi brings, Gemara learns out from the pasuk that a person that kills his friend is Chayiv Malkus. But Elo, Yisrael, Goyle V'Loike al Yedei Kuti, this that it says, that a Yid goes into Golus, and he gets Malkus for what he did to a Kuti. Why is this? The fact that he goes into Galus for this that he did to a Kuti, the Kotle. The case is that he killed the Kuti, and the Kuti is considered to be a ger, and therefore he goes into Galus. But Elo Loike, this that it says that he gets Malkus for what he did to a Kuti, Amai. When is this? The Latye is the case that he cursed a Kuti, but the Kutim were not, they were Gadim, according to the Gemara's opinion here, but they were not Mekayim Torah mitzvahs properly. Later the Chacham discovered that they were serving Avodah Zarah. And in the pasuk, when you curse another Yid, that one is Chayav Galus, the pasuk says, V'nasi ba'amcha lo yisa'or, and from this we learn out, Ba'oise ma'isa amcha, that only if one is doing and behaving like a Yid should, then if you curse this Yid, one is Chayav Malkus. But over here, when one curses a Kuti, he should not be Chayav Malkus. So what's the case that a Yid is Chayav Malkus for what he did to a Kuti? So Elam Rav Acha bar Yaakov tries to answer. The case would be Kagoin Shehayid Boy V'Huzam. If one said Eidus, false testimony about a Kuti, that this Kuti is Chayiv Malkus, and then now Kashazamam, so then one would be Chayiv Malkus for what he said, the false testimony about this Eid Kuti, or about this Kuti that is. But the Gemara asks, that can't be the case because it says Kuti together with a Eved Kanani. The Chvasei Gabi Eved. Are you going to say that the same case applies by a Eved? Sheheid boy V'Huzam, that the Eved testified also, and he became the Eved became Eid Zaimim, and therefore the Eved is getting Kashazamam, this punishment. But Eved bar Eidasu, could a Eved even say testimony? An Eved is not kosher for Eidus at all. So this cannot be the case since it mentions Eved here, and this does not apply by the Eved. Rav Acha says, what is it that a Yid does to a Kuti that he would be Chayiv Galus, he would be Chayiv Malkus, that is, for this? The case of here is if a Yid hits a Kuti and he hit him something that the damage, the harm that he caused him, there's no Shava Pruta to pay him for this. Now Rashi explains the reason the Gemara is saying this is because if you hit someone and there's a Shava Pruta for the payment that you have to pay for what you did, so then in such a case you pay and there's no Malkus for this. But in a case where one hit another, and in this case where a Yid hits a Kuti or an Eved and there's no Shava Pruta, so in such a case there's no payment, and then the Yid gets Malkus for this. When you hit someone and it's a Akah, you hit another Yid, even if there's no Shava Pruta in what you hit him, loike, the person will get Malkus. And that's the case here that it's talking about. Now the Gemara adds, V'loi makshinon haka l'klala. According to the opinion of this Braise, we do not compare hitting another Yid to cursing another Yid. By cursing another Yid, the pasuk says, V'nasi ba'amcha. Only if it's another Yid that's Oisa Maisa Amcha. But by Hakah, we don't compare. And the reason the Gemara is saying this is because there is an opinion in the Gemara in Sanhedrin that we do compare the two, and also by Hakah, one will not be Chayev if it's not a Yid that's Isa Maisa Amcha. So therefore the Gemara clarifies that this Braisa holds that we do not compare the two, and that's the case when a Yid hits a Kuti or an Evet, he'll be Chayev Malkus for this.